Do you believe the T-Wolves are going to sweep the Nuggets?
Hell yeah, I do.
I think Minnesota's gonna sweep Denver. I think the series, I've been through these a few times as a fan, and I think this one's done.
This series is a wrap.
The Minnesota Timberwolves are going to sweep the reigning defending NBA champion.
They don't know how to deal with real adversity because they've never done it before.
Hey, believe what Jokic already said in our huddle. He wants to go home. He's done. Doesn't want to play anymore, bro.
So we're here, Game 5, Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets, and boy has this series shaped into something that has been historic. After going down 0-2 against Minnesota and everybody in the community just losing their minds. Oh my God, what's going to happen? The Denver Nuggets has responded in a way that only champions do, as they have now won 3 straight games, and they've done so in convincing fashion. Now trying to accomplish something that has only been accomplished 6 other times in NBA history by coming back from an 0-2 deficit while having home court advantage. Yes, something that you're just not going to see every single day. Now, of course, there's a lot of things to discuss in this series, a lot of things to take away from, especially in Game 5. We're going to start micro and then go in a much bigger picture here because, again, there's a lot of things to discuss with the way that certain people were talking about Jokic and the Nuggets in this series in particular. But before we get into that, I have to give just a huge shout out Nikola Jokic. The things that he just got done doing in Game 5 were flat out ridiculous. Jokic just gave us an all-time great performance. It was ridiculous. He finished Game 5 with 40 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists, but the kicker here is 0 turnovers, shooting above 65% from the field, 2 for 3 from behind the arc, and 8 for 9 from the free throw line. But the numbers just don't do it any justice at all. You have to watch the game, because Jokic was special as a scorer. It didn't matter who was defending him. Gobert, Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns. Didn't matter if it was isolation or backline help, double teams, finishing through contact, making the right read, step back threes, finishing with the right and left hand in tough situations. I mean, again, just flat out ridiculous. It's amazing to watch him perform at this level, and genuinely speaking, one of the best playoff performances that you will ever see in NBA history, as Jokic with the 40-point, 13 assists outing with 0 turnovers becomes the second player in playoff history to have a 40-point, 10 assists, 0 turnover game in the postseason, that other player being Chris Paul. And even when you dated back in the day when they weren't recording turnovers, the only other 2 players who could have potentially had a game like this are Jerry West and Oscar Robertson, but even then it's really hard for me to believe that back in the 60s they didn't have any turnovers in a game. So just one of the best games that I've ever seen in the postseason, especially when you take into consideration the shot selection, how tough these shots were, and also the stakes that were, on the line in this game. You played really bad the first 2 games, turning around in the last 3 games, and that has really been a difference maker. The first 2 games when they went down 0-2, Jokic had a stat line of 24 points, 12 rebounds, 8.5 assists, turning the ball over 5.5 times in those first 2 games, and shooting splits of 42, 20, and 100. In Game 2 was just really, really bad. He was held to 16 points on 38% shooting from the field and couldn't hit a 3-pointer at all. 4 turnovers, by far the worst game I've seen from Jokic in the playoffs. And then after that, the last 3 games, again, just been much more aggressive. He's now averaging 33 points in these last 3 games, 9 rebounds, almost 10 assists, 3 steals, almost 2 blocks, which is ridiculous, and shooting 60% from the field, 36% from behind the arc, nearly 80% from the charity stripe. Jokic has damn near recorded 80 points in 2 playoff games. Going to Game 5, and effectively a must-win situation because you want to make sure you kill off a lot of hope when it comes to this Timberwolves team, because you don't want to give them any life, and you just put on an all-time great performance, and it was crazy. And it started off out the gate. First quarter was amazing. Picked it up in the second half, top of the third quarter as well. Continued this type of scoring barrage where he went out there, put up like 16 points in the third quarter, 12 points in the first quarter, nearly perfect shooting from the field in the first 3 quarters alone. It was just miraculous. It was amazing to watch. And more specifically, it's, again, how he's getting these points, how aggressive he's being. He's inserting himself. And I actually looked this up. The last 3 games, he has been so overwhelmingly dominant around the basket that it actually does present a very legitimate concern, because in these last 3 games, Jokic has not missed a shot in the restricted area. Jokic is effectively 80-some% within 8 feet from the basket. When he gets that deep and that close to the rim, just literally and analytically speaking, it's actually better off if you give an open three to MPJ or Jamal Murray, and even if they're making that at a 50% clip, that's actually better than allowing Jokic to go one-on-one and getting that deep into the lane. And it's just been pretty consistent. This is something that we also saw in the Lakers series as well, where the Lakers has opted out to have like massive stretches in the second half of allowing just one-on-one play, regardless if it was Rui or AD. That didn't work out. I don't know why we're seeing this again. I get it that the passing and playmaking does make everyone else very deadly, especially when you're getting that much spacing. But I just don't understand how Jokic just gets away with one-on-one matchups every single time. Now, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and just present the elephant in the room as well, because another talking point that I'm pretty sure we're all going to see on the timeline, I've already seen on the timeline, but also in some of these upcoming days is going to be about Rudy Gobert and how bad of a defender he is, how he's overrated. Oh my God, you gave him another DPOY. He can't even defend. There's like two situations here that we have to address. A is that Jokic, he's just an all-time great offensive player. I don't know why many of you all do not want to accept that, but 9 times out of 10, the all-time great offensive player who's playing at all-time highs is going to still be able to score and demolish and embarrass an all-time great defender. We've seen this several, and I do mean several times throughout NBA history, in particular with big men. I've seen Shaquille O'Neal feast on Ben Wallace, even when he wasn't at his absolute peak. I've seen Shaquille O'Neal feast on Dikembe Mutombo. I've seen Hakeem Olajuwon feast on David Robinson. I've seen several guards, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, perimeter-oriented players, feast on great defensive perimeter players on the opposition. So this idea that, oh my gosh, how was he able to do this? He's an overrated defender. If that's the case, and I guess David Robinson's overrated, Ben Wallace is overrated, Dikembe Mutombo's overrated, because I've seen all of them get their ass handed to them against other all-time great offensive players. But on the other side, I'm not going to say that he played perfect defense. I think that Gobert could be better, but bro, instead of pushing narratives, push the facts. Go back and really rewatch that game. Look at some of the shots that were given to this man Jokic. And I really want people to ask themselves, how many players in NBA history, especially bigs, would have been able to make the medley of shots that we saw from Jokic last night? We're talking about left-hand hooks, right-hand hooks. We're talking about contested shots where Gobert is effectively meeting this man at the apex of his floater, step-back threes at the end of the shot clock, post-ups in isolation. I genuinely want people to ask themselves, who's defending that? Who is stopping that? It's not as if like Gobert is playing terrible defense. He's actually trying. We're just watching one of the greatest offensive players throughout league history perform at ridiculous heights, and you just got to respect that. So again, Jokic being much more aggressive and asserting himself has been a difference maker. Strategically speaking, it just makes more sense. The thing that was very frustrating in watching Jokic do what he was doing in the first 2 games didn't make sense because they were effectively trying to run a lot of offense for Jamal Murray to kind of get off, and he was just getting shut down completely. Murray has not been good throughout his entire postseason run. Struggled against the Lakers. That struggles continues against the Timberwolves when you're being defended by Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniel, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And all 3 of those players, especially Jaden McDaniels, has been amazing at trying to maneuver and navigate around Jokic screens, which is something that practically everybody in the NBA really struggles with. What's starting to happen now is Jokic is being more aggressive, not only scoring, but getting the opposing team in foul trouble. Naz Reid, Gobert, and Karl Anthony Towns had 4 fouls. That's throwing off of the rotations, putting in different lineups that the Timberwolves clearly are not comfortable with. And that also means that Gobert is either off the floor because he's in foul trouble, or he has to step up to the plate and defend Jokic one-on-one, which then means that not only can Jokic just fry him, but also, and more importantly, it makes it easier for everyone else to get looks at the basket because now Gobert is no longer backline help. And also, I got to give a huge shout out to the rest of the team as well. Aaron Gordon, the shots that he's been making over the last 2 to 3 games has also just been been ridiculous. He's been a massive difference maker. I would go as far as to say he's been a huge X factor for this Nuggets team because they need him to be an offensive threat. Aaron Gordon is out there knocking out his middies, knocking down threes like he has been effectively for the past 3 games, as Aaron Gordon is averaging 19 points on nearly 70% shooting and 71% shooting from behind the arc, and has made all of his free throws to go along with 5 assists and only 1 turnover on a game-to-game basis. Game 4, he put up 27 points and went 11 for 12 from the field. Again, that's been a massive difference maker. KCP came alive, MPJ and Jamal Murray doing as little as much as they can. Christian Brown has also been a huge difference maker coming off the bench for this team as well. Now, with that being said, I want to be clear. I don't want to make it seem as if like things are completely forgotten on the other side as well. Anthony Edwards has been ascending in this series. He's been amazing, fantastic, spectacular, really, really special. Has given us moments that really separates him from a lot of other players. Is taking that leap in the series, albeit had a bad game in game 5, but had to pick up a little bit more responsibilities offensively because Mike Conley wasn't there while having worse floor spacing. But I've been very, very impressed by Anthony Edwards all playoff long, and in particular in this series where he looks unguardable at times because of his first step, his ability to finish at the basket, and also his mid-range shooting. The 3-point shot is something that I don't think anybody expected to translate over like this in the postseason, but he's doing it again. Anthony Edwards, regardless of how this series shapes out, I think he deserves all the praise in the world. He's been amazing as he's averaging 30 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, shooting splits of 56, 40, and 83. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been a heaven sent on both sides of the floor. Great defense, providing floor spacing and 3-point shooting. He's knocking out those corner threes at a ridiculous rate. And then also Jaden McDaniels has been really good. Offensively, at least suffice enough to keep him on the floor, and then defensively, he's been superb. Again, another series where he's just locking down and is a massive difference maker for this team. I believe the biggest X factor, not only in this series, but in this entire postseason run, being Karl-Anthony Towns. I know for a fact a lot of people can give a lot of flack to Rudy Gobert. I personally believe Gobert as a defender, individual defender, can be better. Post defender can be better. I think the biggest problem with Gobert, however, is his offensive game. Doesn't have the greatest hands. Like, these are major problems. Isn't the greatest post scorer even on smaller defenders. Towns, both sides of the floor, is where it's a big X factor. You can really see how important he is to this team when he's not available to play because he picks up fouls. Spacing out the floor, making Jokic work, especially in the first 2 games, was a massive difference maker. 3-point shot still is knocking down at a very respectable rate and shooting 52% on his threes. But when he did miss them in game 4, it really hurt them pretty significantly. He has to stay on the floor though. He is averaging nearly 4 fouls a game in this series, and that has been the difference maker for this series. It means that they have to give more minutes to players such as Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson. God forbid if they have to dig any deeper than that on that bench. Naz Reid has had a very up and down series for the most part, gave you really good moments, but he hasn't been looking his greatest. Kyle Anderson, though he'll make his shots every now and then, is not a floor spacer and allows Jokic effectively to not play defense. Towns has to be on the floor. He has to give better effort. But more importantly, defensively, he cannot look as bad as he's looked in the series. The fouling is unnecessary. He just has to be better. There's just no other way around it. If he's not going to be better, there are moments where he is basically unplayable because Naz Reid is going to be a much better defender while still providing a lot of that offensive value as well. And to be fair, similar things can be said about Rudy Gobert. I just think Gobert, offensively, he's just been much worse than I think his numbers show. 10 points, 10, 11 rebounds, and nearly 70% from the field. Looks good on paper. But when you watch him, bro, the turnovers are just ridiculous. Passes are just ridiculous. The misreads are also really bad. There's a level of like tunnel vision that he has, and it's just really bad. And of course, there's been several other things that has been a difference maker in this series. The level of physicality that they have allowed in the first 2 games, in contrast to the last 3 games, has been pretty starkly different. The officiating has been completely different. I think that Mike Malone and Jokic have done a really good job at establishing to the officials like, hey, they shouldn't be able to allow to do this or that, and if they're going to be this physical, then I'm going to meet them with a level of physicality as well. Now, in the macro lens, what exactly does this mean for like the series and these players, et cetera, et cetera? Well, in terms of the Nuggets, if they come back from an 0-2 deficit, they will be the 6th team in NBA history to do so. The 5 before them were the 69 Los Angeles Lakers, the 1994 Houston Rockets, the 2005 Dallas Mavericks, the 2017 Boston Celtics, and the 2021 Los Angeles Clippers. And being able to flip the switch and turn things around really is a testament to how great the chemistry, continuity, and coaching has been for this Denver Nuggets team. But the script has been flipped, and it's been pretty obvious. And boy, it looks really, really crazy when some of you all just don't believe in Jokic. And so now this is where we go macro. Throwing away a resume of what a player has been able to provide to you for 4 years now because of 2 playoff games lets me know a lot of you all are just fucking thirsty to just hate on this nigga. And it's kind of weird. You don't have to be the biggest Jokic fan. I know some of you all believe I just gulp up Jokic left and right. But at bare minimum, I believe that he has deserved and earned the right to have some benefit of the doubt in certain series, especially against a Wolves team that is yet to provide the evidence that they are a championship level team and just undisputably saying, oh, they're getting swept. Oh, man, they're getting swept. And oh, does he really deserve the MVP? Oh, we really overrated him. Oh, last year's run really didn't really matter because he didn't really beat any 50-win teams. And look who he beat. And it's like, bro, shut up. I think what a lot of people are also recognizing is that this is going to be the toughest defensive team that this team will have to face all playoffs long. And if this is how they look in the last 3 games, there just more than likely won't be a team that's left in the playoffs that will really compete with them. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I've also seen Jokic have really, really good games. And then in the Eastern Conference, let's just call a spade, they're still playing regular season games over there. I'm gonna just let y'all know right now, everything that's happening in the Eastern Conference really don't count. It's looking like we are going down the path of another championship for the Nuggets. I don't want to jump to any conclusion. I still believe that there's a possibility if you're the Timberwolves that you can kind of pull this game back or pull this series back a little bit closer, push a game 7. And at that point, who knows what's going to happen? A lot of things can be better executed from their part. A lot of that stuff that they've allowed Jokic to just get away with for the past 3 games has been ridiculous. So they can change a lot of things, and hopefully someone else can show up offensively outside of Anthony Edwards and or Karl Anthony Towns, because you just need another from another scoring option. And hopefully Mike Conley will be available for the remainder of the series. But if it's not this Timberwolves team, I don't know, dog. Because it's looking like it's wraps. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to watch playoff games with me, go to playback.tv/Lowe's Room. I'm doing it literally every single day. If you like the merchandise, look at Dame Time. Shout out to Bareface Clothing. Link will be in the description. You can go out there and get your own shirts. They got a new design, Anthony Edwards. It's amazing. Go check that out. If not, just hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.